I guess we should go ahead and get started. Rao, are you ready to give the tech update?
Give me a second, I'm going to share my screen. So you should be seeing my screen. Let me paste the link here in the chat. There you are. So that's the link to Community Update 143. Welcome. So we are running the 09-25-6. So since last week, there is no change on what we're running. Well, actually last week, when I did the debrief, we were just about to start running 09-25-6, which is what is running on all the mainnet observers and the testnet all nodes at this point in time. And 09-25-6 is a bug fix release. But the main part of the work that's going on and the thing that we're waiting for is the piece that Tomislav is finishing. He's finishing the 09-26 release, which is the last finalized state release, which got delayed for a couple of reasons. I talked about the fact that we discovered a data corruption error last week, and that Tomislav has put in a fix for that now. Basically, he changed how the code uses direct buffers, and that seems to have eliminated this data corruption error. So that's the fix for that. Additionally, I talked about the fact that the Scala PB, gRPC, NetE updates were involved. They are involved, and they're all tied into the version of one thing getting in the way of another, as well as in how the code base uses Scala PB. There was some custom pieces that were done. So Tomislav has been working on trying to simplify that as much as possible and remove what we're doing in a custom manner so that upgrades will be easier, not only now, but in future. So we were on a very, I guess, the Scala PB version, and all these things had not been updated in quite a while, pretty much in the last couple of years or so. So Scala PB is the one that generates protobufs in the code base. So it touches a lot of different pieces, and it was important to take the time to fix it in a manner that's both least effort but also effective going forward. So that's the work that Tomislav has been focused on, and that's now nearly complete. It should be available for release sometime next week. So that's in terms of the mainnet release updates. And the other significant piece of work, other than what I just described, is the block merge work. So both Will and NutZipper have been working on that, and we made good progress on that. The block merge work also requires refactoring both the runtime, as well as now NutZipper is looking at refactoring parts of the Casper stuff. So that, again, anytime we say refactor, we're trying to minimize the refactoring needed, and yet there is some amount that needs to get done. So that part is making good progress. I don't know right now when we would have the first release for the community to look at, but we will. But surely by next week we should have a better handle on that as to when the first release of block merge would be available to play with. So that's the update on that. Going back to the previous issue of why Scala PB and NetE and gRPC, this data corruption error, when we looked at it, not only were we looking at, well, what's going on with the database and the memory usage that might be causing that, but because it was happening when there is network hangs on the IBM node, what is the reason why we were looking into that NetE gRPC side of things also. So we took care of both of those, and at least whatever reasons we could think of for fixing that data corruption are now fixed. Dependencies, we're trying to do as much as we can with the dependencies, and there have been a couple more PR updates into the code base that pertain to the dependencies. But once this gRPC NetE Scala PB is done, it would open up for us to do more dependency updates. So, but that's ongoing. So that really is the current work that's going on. And the near-term roadmap basically is getting this last finalized state out next week, along with all the things that I just talked about, and then the block merge. And then we're getting to a point where we have to look into updating the POS contract and the shorting and namespaces after that. So those are upcoming events on the roadmap. So that's what we're looking at. Hold on one second. I'm going to look at the, okay, we're good. The block merge branch is a separate branch from what we're working on as the last finalized state branch. But the last final, there has been recent merging done, meaning the block merge is not based on the current state of the last finalized state. And the last finalized state will be merged back into the main dev once the changes that Tomislav is working on are completed. So that's the main part about the code base. And I think the only other thing I want to talk about is the hackathon. So the test is coming up this Saturday, and we're the number is still around the 150 registrations, and we will be we're scrambling to make sure that we're ready for that, and we will have the test is this Saturday, and then the actual hackathon is the week from Saturday. That's next Saturday and Sunday. So there is still time for you to talk to your friends into signing up for the hackathon. Please do so. And feel free to, if you have LinkedIn or Twitter or any other accounts, feel free to tweet or send out in LinkedIn the hackathon page to all your associates. That's much appreciated. So that's where we are. Greg, is there anything else I should be talking about that I missed? Or,
no, I think that was a good one. Yeah, it's really important for people to understand that, you know, in the open source ecosystem, we have this, you know, whenever you take on a dependency, you're kind of also taking on the responsibility to track the dependency. And sometimes you have to freeze it for a while just so you can make progress. But with respect to the protobuf stuff, that was kind of a barrier for us for a while, especially because of the NetE protobuf connection, right? So we couldn't really update NetE without updating protobuf. So that was a thorny nest. I'm sure many of you who are developers understand what it's like when you go to upgrade one dependency and find you're suddenly downloading the whole internet. So that's kind of where things are. But it looks like Tomislav is out of the woods with respect to those updates. So yeah, I think that's it. Any other questions for Rao? if you have any venues that you think the hackathon links should be shared in, please go ahead and share it. I have shared it with in several different venues, from Imperial College to the Scala users list. So it'd be great if you have another thought about where to post it. Please go ahead. All right. I also wanted to mention, of course, that we have 2 new board members as a result of the election. So we welcome Rao to the board. Of course, he's been attending the board meetings as VP of Governance for quite some time, but now he's officially a board member. And we also we welcome Camilla to the board. So we're looking forward to fresh input on the board. I think it'll be a good board this year. I'm looking forward to it. Next Tuesday is the first official as opposed to special board meeting. So we'll resolve all of the outstanding office positions. So that will be taken care of next Tuesday. And this past special board meeting, we agreed that since we were missing a couple of board members and we did have the official board meeting, it was largely just an informational discussion. We do have the Epoch coming to an end on or around November 30th. So if you are contemplating staking, or you know someone who might be interested in staking, now is the time to start looking at that for yourself. Any questions about any of those topics?
On staking, I just want to add that we're looking into seeing if in the current IBM budget, if we can add a couple more nodes even before the next Epoch start, to see if we can stagger the staking possibilities. But we're still exploring that. We'll have some answers for the next week or so.
Yeah, it'd be very good if we could do that. Daryl, are you ready to give the community week in review?
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, so thanks, Greg. So this is the week in review for Thursday, the 22nd to today, the 28th. Last Thursday, on the 22nd, the Governance Committee discussed the agenda for the AGM. A brief update of the hackathon was provided. The current name for the board intern program was discussed, along with possible name alternatives. On Friday, on the climate coordination call, we discussed the new Colorado fires, the 30 by 30 conservation effort in the US, and new polling that shows Pennsylvanians are opposed to fracking. We also discussed voting in the AGM and recent technological achievements of Rchain. And for your information, these climate coordination calls are submitted as podcasts, so you should be able to subscribe via iTunes or your favorite podcast player. And they're also recorded as YouTube videos, and all of these links can be found as blog posts at blog.rchain.coop. On Saturday, in the RChat call, attendees tallied the voting results from our vote over the last 3 days. An alternative method for tallying was done to verify the vote results were correct. Dan and Jim did a preview of their presentation on liquid democracy in prep for the AGM. And later that evening, of course, was the AGM. And as Greg said, Camilla and Rao are now new board members, and Greg's term as well was renewed. The members also passed a vote on the one item of business surrounding revisiting the co-op's financial policy. And the co-op demonstrated eating our own delicious, pure, nutritious, and very raw dog food with our own on-chain voting DApp. This is the beginning of exciting times ahead as people start employing dApps on our chain and we demonstrate vertical and horizontal scaling to the world. On Monday was the Casper stand-up call, And in this week's Casper Stand-Up, they discuss the origin and future of capital and the application to a tokenized incentive program to lower COVID-19 spread. You can go to YouTube and search for Casper Stand-Up to check it out. And I'll mention that the call was based around a recent article called A Capital Idea that Greg posted to Medium. And if you'd like to check that out, you can go to medium.com/rchain-cooperative. On Tuesday, aka yesterday, in the Rchain education call, Ian and Jim reviewed the Liquid Democracy community contracts. It was recorded and can be viewed via the education channel in Discord. And also yesterday in the communications working group, we discussed the newsletter that was sent out last week. We reviewed how the AGM voting went, how best to deal with alerting people of a scam that's been going around. We also discussed the upcoming hackathon and how to propagate our Medium channel. And to learn more about the hackathon, you can go to rchain.coop/hackathon. And this morning in the Rchain active member, aka RAM meeting in Jim's room, Dan and Jim shared some of the work they've been doing towards the Liquid Democracy project. And Theo expressed his frustrations with the process of submitting apps to Apple. And that brings us to right now.
Thank you, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl about the week in review? Okay. Yeah, I really appreciate the commentary that we had from folks on the article and also on the idea of incentive tokens for gamifying behavior around COVID. It's a really interesting thought. My sister proposed, why not have a results focused financial incentives approach for COVID behavior. So for cities and states that turn around their infection and death rates, give them tax breaks or other kinds of federal funding. And then you don't have to have a lot of discussion about masks or hand washing or anything like that, because those people who implement those protocols will able to be, pull away, pull far ahead of those who do not, as we have seen repeatedly throughout the world. But if you simply make it results-based, then it would be a good way to modify people's behavior. Now, the interesting point about trying to do this at the federal level is that introducing legislation like this would take weeks, if not months, and then getting a bill voted on the congressional floor would take longer, and getting it through the Senate would take even longer. And by comparison, you can just look at the recent update to the HEROES Act that which was not attended to before the Senate went into recess before the election. So again, that's about 6 months in waiting, 5-6 months in waiting. So that gives you, a yardstick to measure this kind of estimate on with respect to any other sort of COVID relief legislation. And by contrast, you could mint a token right now on Rchain. It's at the AGM. Dan Connolly demonstrated how easy it is to mint a token. So you could mint a token right now, and then you could play both sides of the market. On one side, you could work with state officials and city officials to make sure that there's a on-chain record of the infection rates that everybody believes, everyone has confidence in. And on the other side, you could be working with merchants and athletes, pop stars, who would be willing to take the token in exchange for, autographed CDs or discounts on various merchandise, etc. So you could be working in an asynchronous fashion to increase the number of participants who would be willing to redeem the tokens, and likewise work out sort of voting and distribution scheme that everyone believes in. So you could be working on this mechanism right now. There's essentially nothing stopping someone like my sister from taking her idea and putting it into practice without waiting on the federal government. And this is in fact the point that I've been trying to make about blockchains and self-organization and self-assembly, is that it provides the means to begin to go after these sorts of self-organizing opportunities right away. So that's kind of the how I connect the dots between the blockchain platform and things like tackling climate change or the consequences of climate change. As it's all about coordination and self-organization. Any questions, thoughts, comments about this?
Yeah, Greg, can you explain that further? I'm a little confused about the whole idea of the incentive towards. Is it incentive towards getting tested?
No. The incentive is you want to reward municipalities and states for bringing their infection and death rates down. That's what you're monitoring, and based upon improvements in rates, you'll deliver tokens, right? And then the states and the municipalities can then distribute those tokens amongst their citizens in the way that sort of best matches the behavior they're trying to they're trying to incentivize.
So the money would go to municipalities?
The money would go to authorities such as municipalities and state governments. Yes.
I see.
And it would be based upon, you could even write a smart contract. If the rate goes down by a certain percentage, they get this many tokens. If the rate goes down by another percentage, they get that many tokens. And then now, to make the tokens have value, you need to work the other side of the market. Who will redeem these tokens? So, Alice has a restaurant and she figures out that, she can continue to stay in business by, offering, online ordering and delivery and these kinds of things. And so, and so she implements these kinds of programs, and we notice that in Alice's county, the rates are going down because people are not going and sitting in restaurants, as an example. So the county, as an example, looks over all the businesses who have implemented programs like that and divvies up the tokens that they've received, because at the county level, their rates have dropped. Now Alice has this big parcel of tokens, and the question is, what can she do with them? How are they valuable to her? How will they support her behavior? Well, if on the other side of that, suppliers of things like eggs or other things have said that they will redeem the tokens for those for discounts on eggs or milk or soy sauce, whatever it may be, then Alice's commitment to lowering COVID rates by changing her business model is rewarded. Does that make sense?
So she would use the tokens kind of more like almost like a not barter. Is it kind of like
coupon. Like a coupon?
Like a coupon. Uh-huh.
You can make it more sophisticated, but that's just like a first level of sophistication.
Wow, really interesting ideas. I hadn't really thought about this until this moment. So lots to parse out. It's very interesting, though.
Sure. Any other folks have any thoughts on this? To me, the most important thing is that these kinds of schemes can be explored. They can be looked at immediately. And if there's something that doesn't work out about a particular implementation of such a scheme, you can tweak it, you can change it, right? And because you can change it, you can explore the space of coordination models relatively rapidly. And that's kind of the point, is that these tokenization systems allow for the ease of tokenizing makes it
Very agile.
agile. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. You can explore lots and lots of the coordination models.
It's amazing because, like, I was just reading an article last week about Generation Z, or Z, I guess, as it said down there, and the interesting thing about this generation is that they realize that they don't have time to wait for governments or corporations to enact on these ideas. So they realize that they have to kind of take it into their own hands. And what you're describing is exactly the type of thing that I can picture them doing. Not that it's up to them, but it's just there's a correlation there anyway, that I can see a younger generation really jumping on ideas like this that involve having to act quicker than what the current methods of coordination avail themselves to.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, this was precisely the insight that I think many people who looked at Bitcoin and said, oh, like once the means of tokenization no longer needs a standing army. You don't need a government to mint it, and you don't need a government to protect it, right? Then, so if you can make all of that electronic, then you can explore coordination in a wholly new way, right? It's now all about, capital thought of, conceived in this way is really about gamification of behavior. This is so you start to get, so the youngsters start to get really clever about how to gamify behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's sort of the, and I think anyone who was looking at blockchain seriously was like, okay, so now the door is open, right? So that part of the problem has been solved. And as soon as you have a scalable blockchain, then yeah, you can now gamify behavior, because you can tokenize and incentivize a wide range of behaviors.
Exciting.
Coolio. Yeah, to me, it's very exciting, right? And we now have a platform that's scalable enough to take on that particular problem today. Nobody. The only thing, the only blocker is just helping people see it, right?
Yeah.
Right. All right, folks. Well, if there's no other burning comments or questions, or thank you all for your time, and looking forward to seeing you at the closed door session on Friday. Stay safe.
Thanks, everybody.